What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder. Boy oh boy, we've come to that point of the year. Grand Final day. It all goes down tomorrow and we are given one hell of a matchup. Geelong taking on Brisbane. A lot of people have earmarked these two clubs as the best clubs over the duration of the year, and we are getting two of the best going head-to-head in the final weekend of September. It is absolutely fantastic. We could not be asking for more as neutral fans. I feel these two clubs deserve to be here at the pointy end. They have clawed, they have scratched, and they have been ahead above many other teams this season, and it all culminates into the final game of the year. Will Brisbane go back-to-back? Will Geelong claim another premiership? We are going to deep dive today and look at the team lineups. We're going to have a look at the previous matchups of both of these teams earlier throughout the year to kind of get a gauge on the players that need to be watched before getting my official tips in for not only the winner, but first goal kicker and Norm Smith medalist as well. Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive on in. The teams have already dropped. We know who is in, who is out, who will be taking the field on Grand Final day. We know Tom Stewart is going to be missing for Geelong through concussion. Reece Stanley comes in for him. And Lachie Neale, overcoming a calf injury, comes in for Jared Berry, who I want to really just touch on for a second here, because he dislocated his shoulder in the prelim against Collingwood a couple of weeks prior. Had popped out his shoulder again. So 2 dislocations in the space of 3 to 4 weeks. He could have played this game, but he went to Chris Fagan on the brink of selection and told him that he wasn't 100% on the shoulder and effectively withdrew his name from being able to be selected for this team. He has gone team first and taken himself out of the lineup. And I think 2 completely different polarizing situations here where Tom Stewart has been concussed due to a tackle, and we have seen over the course of the week conversations about should there be a pre-grand final bye. There was whispers about maybe trying to get some legal teams to find out whether or not Stewart could play. I don't know whether there's any legitimacy to that. But then on the flip side, you have a guy who could have played this game and has sacrificed his spot for the better of the team. I just think that is highly commendable, and if Brisbane go on to win this game, I would love to see a moment where Berry does get given a premiership medal, whether it's Chris Fagan, getting up on stage and doing what Luke Beveridge did with Bob Murphy, and similar circumstances, kind of Bob Murphy was out injured, couldn't play in that grand final, but Luke Beveridge effectively said, this is yours. I would love to see a moment like that with Chris Fagan and Jared Berry, because I feel Jared Berry's role in this Brisbane team is severely underrated. So he is out for the Brisbane Lions. Lachie Neale comes in. Still feel it could be to the Lions' detriment. He needs to be 100%. He's flogged himself to the absolute limit this week during training to make sure he's gotten to this point. But I still digress. I feel Scott Pendlebury went into the prelim with a calf niggle or a calf injury of some kind before that injury forced him out of the game early. So there's one of 3 kind of scenarios, or even 4 scenarios here that can run with Lachie Neale. The first of which, he plays a full game unscathed and makes it through without any injury concerns. The second of which, he takes the field, he gets subbed out of the game because for some reason that calf plays up and does cause him to be injured and out of the game. Third of which is Geelong decide to put a heavy tag on him because of this injury, and it could potentially just shut him out of the game completely, depending on how fit he is. And fourth of which, if they do go to tag him, and he overcomes the tag, then Geelong are wasting that opportunity. So there's many different kind of outcomes and pathways we can walk down. I just hope he's fully fit and ready to go, because he is one of the modern greats of the game, and to see him just get up and overcome this injury, a lot of people are calling him selfish for wanting to take this spot, but this is a captain who is trying to rise to the occasion and get his team over the line. I can't commend it any higher. But with that being said, let's move on to the team lineup. Let's have a look. We'll look through Geelong first, from defence through to the forward line. We have Connor O'Sullivan, Sam De Koning, and Jack Henry deep in defence, with Mark O'Connor, Zach Guthrie and Lawson Humphreys across that half-back line. We've got Brian Myers and Oliver Dempsey on the wings with Max Holmes in the guts. Brad Close and Tyson Stengel up on the half-forwards with Sean Manor at centre-half-forward. I don't know whether that will be the go. I think Dangerfield probably plays that centre-half-forward. Maybe even Shannon Neal goes up a little bit higher. But we've got Shannon Neal, Patrick Dangerfield and Jeremy Cameron deep in forward 50. Reece Stanley taking the ruck for Geelong with Bailey Smith and Tom Atkins as ruck, rover and rover. On the bench for Geelong, we have Mark Blixavs, Jack Martin, O'Sheen Mullen, Jai Clark and Jack Bowes. One of those players will be the sub. I am betting it'll probably be Jai Clark that gets the sub role for Geelong. For Brisbane, starting from their forward line and working the opposite direction, we have Calamar Chi, Logan Morris and Cam Rayner playing deep forward. Zach Bailey, Ty Gallup and Charlie Cameron across the half-forward line. Levi Ashcroft and Hugh McCluggage on the wings with Lockie Neal in the guts. Brandon Starcevich, Darcy Wilmot and Harris Andrews across the half-back. Ryan Lester, Dane Zorko and Darcy Gardner across the full-back line. Darcy Fort in the ruck, Josh Dunkley as rover, Will Ashcroft as rover, with Kai Lohman, Jasper Fletcher, Sam Marshall, Bruce Revel, and Oscar McInerney on the bench. If they were going to run a potential sub here, it would be one of either Bruce Revel or Sam Marshall. We have seen Bruce Revel as that kind of starting sub to bring a little bit of X factor into the game, and I think that very well may be the case. Give Sam Marshall a run to start with, see how he's feeling, and if he's not up to it, Bruce Revel comes on and gives Brisbane a little bit of an edge. The emergencies for this game. For Geelong, we have Jed Buse, Mitch Nevitt, and Oliver Henry. For Brisbane, we have Sam Day, James Tunstill, and Dara Joyce. Feel Oliver Henry's been a little bit stiff this year. I feel he was really building to something in 2024, and just with Shannon Neal going to a whole new level this year, with Sean Manor going to another level, I just feel it's been hard for him to break into, which obviously he's left Collingwood to come to this club to play with his brother and sees this game as an emergency. I don't know whether there will be any late outs. We know Geelong like to do the whole, moments before the game starts. Let's do a cheeky change. But I think the biggest kind of omission from this team is Jed Buse. Now, historically, he has played a very good clamping down role on Charlie Cameron. I don't know whether we look for a Mark O'Connor tag. Maybe we have an O'Sheen Mullen. Connor O'Sullivan could potentially do a little bit of work in there as well. There's going to be a few tags that need to go down in this game, having a look around the ground. First and foremost, I feel the best move Brisbane can do here with Lockie Neal coming into the team is having Hugh McCluggage stay on the outside. Have him play on the outskirts, because we have seen Tom Atkins in week 1 of the finals put the clamps on him in a tagging role, absolutely negated Hugh McCluggage's influence on the game, and that was a huge reason as to why Geelong went on to win that first final. So with Lockie Neal, Dunkley and Ashcroft as your main 3 in the guts, let Hugh McCluggage go out onto the wing, because one of two things happen. You either force Tom Atkins to do the tag on the outside, which takes him out of the centre contest, which is huge, or they forego tagging him altogether at the behest of maybe him getting off of the chain. So a big move there very early. It's going to be interesting to see how that matchup goes down. Again, if Lockie Neal is undercooked, Tom Atkins laying a heavy tag on him could negate him out of the game completely. So it's going to be an interesting watch to see how Tom Atkins is used. In the forward line for Brisbane, we've got Bailey, Cameron, Rayner, Archie, Morris. We have so many threats, and with Tom Stewart out, we don't have that secondary defender to fly through for an intercept grab. We have a back 6 that needs to be accountable, and there's not many taggers in that role back there that are going to be able to shut everyone down. I feel Charlie Cameron is one that you 100% need to lock down. So maybe a Mark O'Connor goes to a Charlie Cameron. Maybe you try to match Lawson Humphreys against him because speed matches speed. But then, who do you go to in the secondary? Do you lock down Cam Rayner? Do you lock down Zach Bailey? Because if you lock down one and not the other one can pop up and have a huge game. On the flip side, with Brisbane's defensive line, I feel we are going in rather tall. We've got Harris Andrews, Darcy Gardner. Lester's not a small guy, neither's Darcy Wilmot. Starcevich plays much bigger than what he is. So the fact that Geelong are kind of small, especially across that half-forward line. I mean, we've got Shannon Neal, Jeremy Cameron, and Patrick Dangerfield all with height. But outside of that, you've got Brad Close, Sean Manor, and Tyson Stengel, all arguably three small forwards. So the configuration is going to need to be looked at here. Dane Zorko is definitely not playing on Patrick Dangerfield. That's for damn sure. I feel Lester or Starcevic will take Dangerfield. Harris Andrews definitely takes Jeremy Cameron. Darcy Gardner probably plays the negating role on Shannon Neal. And then you'll have someone like a Darcy Wilmot maybe follow Sean Manor around, or chase around a Tyson Stengel, because he's got that tank. He's got the ability to do so. Across the wings, McCluggage and Ashcroft against Myers and Dempsey are very tantalising matchups. We've got Brian Myers, who sets up the ball inside 50, absolutely superb. So Levi Ashcroft is going to be very accountable in this game if they are lining up against each other. Oliver Dempsey, I feel, could have had a shout for All-Australian wingman this year. So the fact that he missed out, and we could see two All-Australian potential players go head-to-head on that role, on that wing, I reckon that's one of the best matchups head-to-head on the field, Oliver Dempsey and Hugh McCluggage. I really do. And then the midfield battle, obviously, Bailey Smith, Tom Atkins, Max Holmes. Then we've got Lachie Neale, Josh Dunkley, Will Ashcroft. Who does Josh Dunkley negate? Do they negate anybody at all? Does he try to run with Bailey Smith for as long as he can? Personally, I think Max Holmes is the one that you need to shut down. Bailey Smith has ran at a rather deplorable disposal efficiency. Even last week in the prelim, he had 36 odd possessions, but he only ran at 62% disposal efficiency. So I'm not too concerned about Brisbane needing to put too much attention into him. Having somebody like maybe a Will Ashcroft running side by side, not in a negating role, but just to kind of just push him out of the contest a little bit. Will Ashcroft doesn't shy away from a hard ball, so it's going to be, I reckon that could be a good play. Dunkley shutting down a Max Holmes takes a lot of that run and carry out of the game. Max Holmes is a distributor that needs to have all of his avenues shut down completely, because I feel if there is anyone in this midfield that could be a match winner for Geelong, Max Holmes is the one. He finally gets opportunity to go to the big dance. We have seen in the past, Max Holmes has missed the opportunity of the grand final because of that hamstring injury that he copped. So being able to bounce back and get the opportunity to cement himself in Geelong history as a Premiership player is something that he'll really cherish the opportunity to do so. Patrick Dangerfield put Geelong on his back in the prelim, and he could absolutely pop off in a big way in this game in what could be one of his final years at the club. Dane Zorko has been bearing the brunt of this half-back line all season and has taken Brisbane to a whole new level. He could be the match winner for Brisbane. There are so many players in this game that stand to have opportunities to really grab it by the reins and just absolutely control it. I just can't tell you how excited I am for this game. We now, before locking in our tips, should take the time to probably reflect on the 3 times these teams have played each other this year and just see the breakdown of how it all went down. The first game was in round 3. Brisbane hosted Geelong at the Gabba, and they won 10-10-70 to 9-7-61. 9 points in a game that both teams were a little bit inaccurate, especially Brisbane, but Brisbane this year have had that kind of run where they allowed inaccuracy to potentially upset them more than they deserved. When we have a look at the ranking points for this game, and now don't get it mistaken, on screen it shows that I'm looking at fantasy points, but fantasy points, I'm almost 100% certain, runs off of champion data, so that is a great way to kind of judge where players are at ranking-wise. Hugh McCluggage was the number 1 rated player on the field in this first hit-out. 30 disposals, 4 marks, 8 tackles, 6 clearances, and that's without looking at things like score involvements. For this game, Hugh McCluggage ran at an equal best with 8 alongside Will Ashcroft. Funnily enough, Will Ashcroft was one of the better ones for Brisbane. He had 33 disposals, 6 marks, 3 tackles, 5 clearances. Dane Zorko off of halfback, 28 disposals, 7 marks, 4 tackles, 5 clearances. Then again, for Geelong, Max Holmes, Bailey Smith, Brian Myers, very underrated when it comes to statistical output because you don't expect him to pop up as much as he does. But when you have a look again at score involvements, he is always there close enough. Oh, he wasn't in this game, so maybe he dropped off a little bit. But most of the time, he's having more than 3 in most games. So he obviously had a down game this time around. But I feel for Geelong, some underrated players that really could be, the turn of the tide here. Brian Myers, Tom Atkins, Blixavs, I feel doesn't get spoken about as near enough. He's one of the most versatile players I feel the competition has ever seen. Can Jack Bowes add anything off of the interchange? I don't know. Outside of that, the main winners are obviously Dangerfield, Holmes, Smith, those type of players. Did Tom Stewart play this first game? I'd be very interested to see if he did and how he fared. Tom Stewart did not play the first game. Shannon Neal only had 5 touches this turnaround as well, and Kai Lohman only had 4, so a lot of players. Jeremy Cameron had 8 and only kicked 1. Tyson Stengel had 10 but kicked none. So very hard to really gauge at that point in time, but straight out the gate you can see Hugh McCluggage is going to be causing a lot of headaches if you don't shut him down. We move on down the line to round 15. Geelong hosted Brisbane at the GMHBA Stadium down in Geelong, and they lost 51, 6 goals 15 to 14-8-92, 41 points. Now, again, a game where Geelong were incredibly inaccurate, and they could probably blame themselves for losing this game. But when we have a look at the contributors again, Dane Zorko, Josh Dunkley, Will Ashcroft, Hugh McCluggage again, only had the 22 this time, but still higher rated than a lot of the Geelong players. And for Geelong, surprise, surprise, Bailey Smith, Tom Atkins, Tom Stewart played this game and was pivotal in that back line, even though the Lions towed them up a little bit down forward. Jared Berry, his omission out of this midfield I feel is huge, because just like Josh Dunkley, Berry has opportunity to play a negating, tagging kind of role. So you could have had in this game, if they were fit, Josh Dunkley going to someone like a Bailey Smith, and then Jared Berry running with someone like a Max Holmes to negate both of them. And I think that would have gone a long way to shutting down the engine room for Geelong. But again, just these names popping up, synonymous. I mean, Cam Rayner has opportunity to pop up here. He pops up in clutch moments. He can go so quiet, and then when the time comes, he just takes opportunity. We work our way down, and we look at players like Max Holmes. Didn't have much of an influence this game. They were able to negate him well enough. Brian Myers, they shut down his influence enough. We have a look at the score involvements for this game. Again, the likes of Will Ashcroft still getting 8. Dane Zorko, McCluggage again getting involved with the top. So it really is a matter of who from what team is going to get shut down, who they think is more pivotal. I definitely feel the play is for Max Holmes to be locked down for Geelong. Hugh McCluggage needs to be locked down for Brisbane. But if you play him once more as an outside runner, you play him on the wing, does Atkins get pulled out of that engine room and put on the wing instead, which would take his tackling pressure, his defensive pressure out of the centre bounce, out of those centre contests? It's a very bold play. I reckon that's how this should play out. I definitely feel. Goal kickers for this game, Logan Morris popped off with 5. Cameron only had the 8 touches but kicked 4. And I remember, I think it was late in the game that he kicked those 4 as well, if memory serves me correctly. So definitely going to be an interesting battle between Cameron and Harris Andrews. There's now the caveat of him kicking 100 goals this year, I think, is now done and dusted and behind him. So he just goes into this game with one thing in mind, and that's winning a premiership. So does that clear Cameron's head a little bit? Does that just take a little bit of doubt out of his mind? Because I definitely feel since he was officially put on he's going to kick 100 goals watch, he's, for lack of better words, I think he's gone to shit comparatively to the earlier start of the season. The most important game to reflect on was week 1 of the finals. 16-16, 112, defeating 11-8, 74. 38 points the way of Geelong, which could have been so much larger had they been accurate. Had they been accurate, this could have been a 10-plus goal win. When you look at that in isolation, you still have similar names listed off here. Josh Dunkley popping off with 11 tackles. Darcy Fort was huge in the ruck in this game. Dane Zorko was huge off of half-back. Lachie Neale had 32, but this was the game that he did that calf. So he's sat out numerous weeks through the finals after this game. Will Ashcroft had a big game, and then after that, you can see it on screen, it was just all Geelong, and then a bulk of Brisbane, and then it was all Geelong again with Brisbane sprinkled in between. Logan Morris went from kicking 5 goals against them the last time they played to only having 6 touches and the 1 goal on return here. Charlie Cameron only had 2 touches and kicked the 1 goal. Other players that could really turn it around this time around. Levi Ashcroft only had 13 disposals. Hugh McCluggage got the hard tag from Tom Atkins and only had 14 touches and 3 clearances for the entire game. He played a predominantly midfield role in that first final. So again, I feel getting him out of the guts and pushing him out to a wing could be for the benefit of Brisbane in the long term. Kai Lohmann has really started to turn his fortunes around. Harris Andrews, I expect big things out of Harris Andrews every week, really. Zach Bailey had 27 and kicked the 1 goal. Cam Rayner had 13 and kicked 3. We have opportunity. Tom Stewart was one of the better performing players for Geelong as well. And I just feel with Tom Stewart out of this defensive lineup for Geelong, it throws the configuration out of whack so much so. We have a look yet again at this defensive lineup and you kind of work out who's going to go where. Jack Henry probably plays the role on Logan Morris. Zach Guthrie probably plays... Actually, Sam De Koning probably plays on Ty Gallup. Zach Guthrie probably becomes that secondary float-through intercept marker. But with Charlie Cameron, Zach Bailey, Cal Archie, and Cam Rayner, with Cam Archie probably going to play a more defensive negating role, we could see him maybe go to a Zach Guthrie to play as a forward, like, defensive shutdown and try to get Zach Guthrie out of the game. Could the speed of Zach Bailey and Charlie Cameron and even Cam Rayner in some parts be a little bit too much for them to tame? I just think defensively, Brisbane are more sound than Geelong are. In the guts, I think they're evenly matched. That neither of them have a prominent A-grade style ruckman. I feel Blixavs has the advantage over all the ruckmen on the field. I would rate him as the better one. But with Reece Stanley coming in, that allows Mark Blixavs to now roll through that midfield as a midfielder if needed. He could run on the outside on a wing. He could go into defence. He could go forward. He is Mr. Versatile. He can go everywhere. As I said, many tantalising matchups around the ground. We've got a very potent forward line from Geelong. But I think the defensive line of Brisbane can really shut that down. I feel Harris Andrews can keep Jeremy Cameron to a potential 2-goal game. I feel Darcy Gardner could keep Shannon Neal completely locked out. We have maybe a Starcevic go to Dangerfield and completely do with him as he pleases. 2 hard heads going at it as well, I think would be great to watch. Dane Zorko has opportunity to really press running off of halfback here. Zorko versus Manor would be a matchup I'd love to see as well. Where do I think this game is going to land? I feel both of these defensive lines pride themselves on intercept possession and then kind of turning momentum onto their own terms by just possession and way of control. In the midfields, I feel Geelong are probably going to be more pressed to try to maybe slow things down a little bit. Brisbane probably will look for the handball more, I feel. Is Bailey Smith just going to get the ball and whack it onto his boot and hope for the best? Because doing it against Brisbane, I feel it's not going to work for you. If we can get the ball past half back for Geelong and we can get the run of Bailey or Rayner or Cameron going on the back here, I reckon they could get forward press because I feel they're a lot quicker than Geelong's back line. I'm going to back Brisbane to win this grand final by 17 points. A lot of people are tipping a blowout because both of these teams, when they last played a grand final, both played against Sydney. Both were absolute blowouts. Sydney got absolutely demoralised. I don't think it's going to be a blowout game. I think it's going to be a tight contest. 17 points the way of Brisbane, I think, is probably thereabouts, given the fact that the last time these two played each other and they could have lost by 10 goals, it'd be a huge turnaround. But I just feel the loss of Tom Stewart is going to be too insurmountable for Geelong to overcome, if that makes sense. I just think as a general, as a cool head, his footy IQ, his use of the ball, his intercept marking, it's going to be something they severely lack. With the Norm Smith and first goal kicker, I'm going to say Geelong kicked the first goal, and I'm going to go with Sean Manor as the first goal kicker. One of my close friends, avid Brisbane supporter, he's thrown a name out there. He thinks Cal Archie could be a cheeky chance for the first goal. As far as the Norm Smith I don't want to pick a standout player. I feel if Brisbane win, Lachie Neale could be an easy one to go to if he plays a full 4 quarters because of the story of him overcoming this injury, leading the charge for Brisbane. They win, you give him the Norm Smith. It could be like the cherry on the cake. Will Ashcroft obviously will be in the eyes of the voters again because he won it last year. I think... see, Hugh McCluggage, I feel as well, if he can break a tag and he's not tagged and Brisbane win, it could be a shout. But I'm going to go with Zach Bailey. I've just got a feeling about him in this game. I think he's going to have 25 disposals and kick 3 goals. I feel he's going to be a very decisive point and turning point in this game. I feel he's going to be a point of difference. Logan Morris has potential to really get off the chain in this game because, as I said, Geelong's backline are going to have to play one-on-one. They don't have that kind of avenue now to have somebody peel off and kind of take that intercept grab, I feel. I just... maybe I'm reading into it too much. I just think Tom Stewart being out is too big. I feel Jared Berry being out, he can be... as sad as it is that he's taken himself out, and I commend him again for it, I feel he can be replaced in that role because he's out. Lachie Neale's in. It's not a like for like. They play a little bit differently, but they play the same position. So so you can kind of work around that. I just feel Reece Stanley coming in for Tom Stewart. Could they have gone down the avenue of maybe bringing Jed Buse in instead? I don't know. Maybe they looked at the fact and they saw that Oscar McInerney and Fort doing a double team on Mark Blixavs could have been too much, so maybe they've decided they'll bring in a secondary ruckman of their own and they'll have Blixavs as that utilitarian kind of player so they can play him where needed. This is going to be a great contest nonetheless. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be a close game. It'll be within 3 to 4 goals either side of the board. But Brisbane for me, back to back. And if they do go back to back with the acquisitions they're going to make in the off-season, a 3-peat is definitely on the cards, and they could be locking themselves in as a modern-day dynasty. Who knows? It all goes down tomorrow, and I am so keen. I mean, the prelims last weekend, a lot of people were saying that as neutral supporters, it sucks because these 4 teams are always popping up. But at the end of the day, these 4 teams are marked as the best teams in the comp for a reason. And to see 2 teams like this come head-to-head, it's going to be great to watch, especially given their recent grand final histories. Both of these teams, as I stated before, have won their last grand final wins by blowouts. So these 2 teams coming head-to-head, interesting watch, because Brisbane, although they lost week 1 of the finals, does have the better of Geelong this year collectively. So sit back and strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. I feel this is going to be one hell of a fucking game. Thank you for joining me. Do let me know in the comment section down below who you think's going to win, first goal kicker and Norm Smith medalist as well. Let's have a bit of fun. Let's see who can get closest to the pin. When we get back to making content again after the grand final, there will be a round recap where I discuss the grand final in totality. We name my MVP for the final series, and following that I've got ideas for videos as well. I said it in my round recap, I want to do a video about the Brownlow this year because I've got some opinions. I'm going to cover the All-Australian. We're going to do the best 22 under 22. And obviously the next thing after the grand final that all of us as football lovers will be waiting for is the trade period. I did a phantom draft last year for the round 1 draftees, so I'm really keen to get on board and do another phantom draft this year. And then we can sit back and we can assess all the teams individually. Let's give them pass marks. Let's grade them. Let's see where they need to improve from my personal level. You know, who should they target? Where do they need to grow? What do they need to change to be better? So many ideas. If you've got any ideas as well, sound off in the comment section down below. But that is it from me. Thank you for joining me. If you did like the video, I'd appreciate it if you did leave a like. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here and you want to get on board the community we are making. If you follow Geelong, if you follow Brisbane, good luck to you guys this weekend. If you're a neutral supporter like myself, just sit back and fucking take it all in. Really, we're going to be treated to one hell of a game. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.